Hey guys, I'm Mason, and this is Wrestling in the Dark, the only wrestling review and recap show brought to you by a blind fan. Probably. It's time to take a look at this week's NXT UK episode 41, featuring the much anticipated match between the Irish Ace, Jordan Devlin, and the WWE United Kingdom champion, Walter. How good is it? What happened? If you want to find out, stick with me as I take a look at this week's NXT UK and see how it all panned out. You know you want to find out. The opening match of the night was Travis Banks versus Mansour. Mansour came out working heel, which was a little bit confusing to me because he definitely seemed like he was working face against Dominik Dijakovic the night before on NXT, so that was a little bit confusing to me. But other than that, this was a fairly decent match that was somewhat let down probably by the commentary. The first opening minutes took them a little while to start actually calling the match. The first thing that I have down on my notes is that the commentary was being drowned out by the entrance music. That is a common theme in NXT UK with those production values. Gladly, even though they were in New York again, still, I actually think that the crowd did a lot better this week. There was definitely a lot louder reactions. They were definitely getting into it a bit more, so I appreciated that. The first actual move that I have is that Travis Banks pulled off a knee to the jaw to Mansour. Then Banks was sent out to the floor, which, as I was reading it, gave me a little bit of a chuckle because honestly, my notes for this match read like a haiku. It's brilliant. Banks was sent out to the floor, which I thought was a little bit of a lazy call. I mean, come on, you could tell me how. Mansour was trying to slow down the pace of the match. He was trying to lock in submissions, but Nigel McGuinness was putting over that he didn't really know what submission he was going for because of Mansour's lack of experience. I really found it strange that he was working heel, and I think I like him more as a face. He was shouting trash talk at Travis Banks, and I never really bought it. Like I said, there was quite a lot of cool in-ring action here that I could tell that was going on, but there were some lazy calls. At one point, after Mansour had been trying for his submissions and stuff, Banks turned the tide with, quote, a kick. And it's like, okay, what kind of kick? What was he doing? You know, I don't know, it doesn't really add any context to the match when you just say a kick. Then Banks, after he turned the tide, he did a massive dive to the outside, wiped out Mansour. When he took it back into the ring, he tried for his slice of heaven enziguri, but it got countered by Mansour. They didn't say what at the time, but in the replays they actually told you that it was a cutter. Still, that's pretty general too, like a cutter. But still, I can sort of imagine at least what the counter looked like in that case. But it was for nothing really, because eventually Banks hit the slice of heaven, then he hit the Kiwi Crusher, and he picked up the win. I gave this a strong 4. It was a pretty decent match. Like I said, there was some lazy calling that I was really surprised by. It's happened in both episodes of NXT UK now, this one and the last one. I've sort of felt like there was a little bit of just laziness when it came to actually calling the moves. Like I say, like, gets sent to the outside, turns the tide with a kick, and then, like I say, obviously they explained it in the replays, but just that Mansour just countered the slice of heaven attempt. But like I said, it was actually a fairly decent match. Travis Banks, for me, even though Jordan Devlin gets the comparisons because he's Irish, Travis Banks is definitely the Finn Balor of this show, with those high intensity style and those high paced matches and stuff like that. So I definitely think that he is like the Finn Balor of NXT UK, but I actually quite like that. I never used to really have any connection with him when I first started watching NXT UK, but I'm slowly getting to like him and like his style. I think Cassius, oh no, did a good job of actually making me have some empathy for Travis Banks. So well done, Cassius Ono. You are the wrestling genius, and this was a 4 out of 6 match. After that, we got 2 promos from the women's division. We got a Xia Brookside promo with her happy-go-lucky self, saying that she's going to be the best me that she can be, and talking about how she hasn't been doing great, but she's going to do better. And she caps it all off with "Get ready to fly with Brookside," and runs off doing a plane noise. I'm taking the mick a little bit, but it was actually a fairly decent promo. She delivered it well. She came across endearing and charming, and it was well delivered, like I said. But running off doing a plane noise, right? Okay, that's not one that I would have actually expected. Like just a full-on meow. I just couldn't. It cracked me up. After that, we had a revamped Nina Samuels show promo with her new posh voice. "I'm Nina Samuels show." She was saying that leading ladies amass leading roles, and that's what she's been doing, amassing victories in NXT UK. She says that she is a leading lady and Toni Storm isn't. She says Toni Storm's good, but she's no leading lady. I quite like this stuck-up actress gimmick. I think it could actually work pretty well. Give it some time till she's actually a little bit more comfortable doing this voice, because it does come across just a little bit put on, but I think given time she'll actually start sounding a bit more natural with it. So give it a little bit, and then once she's comfortable, I think this could actually be a really good gimmick. For once, it's not just like I'm the queen or just the best. I don't know. I feel like you can actually get some ground out of it, like you could with like the Mrs. A-lister gimmick. You know, you can have people asking her for her autographs and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like there's quite a bit that you can do with a leading lady actress sort of gimmick. I like Nina Samuels. I think she's pretty good with her promo. So those were 2 pretty decent promos on opposite ends of the scale. Xia Brookside with that endearing, trying to connect with the fans face type promo, and Nina Samuels with a very stuck up performance. Like I said, I like the gimmick. It's good. I think it's got legs. Piper Neven versus Raina Gonzalez next in women's division action. This match could have been a lot better. I think the first half of the match or so was just, there was no call into it. There was no commentary at all. They were just expositing. They were just putting over Piper, putting over Raina, explaining why both of them are good and tough and all the things that we already understand. And I just wanted them to actually call some in-ring action, to be honest. I was like, I can hear that the thing's going on. I can hear that they're hitting the mat and doing moves to each other, so please just tell me what they're doing. I get that for the most part, they don't feel like they need to tell you the most technical little bits, you know, like a transition or whatever, but it really adds to the match. So when they're waiting to... Because when this match picked up, there was actually some pretty good commentary. But for the most part, they feel like they don't have to say much if the action isn't going much, but then you don't get the build. Because, say for me, this match just basically didn't get started until it picked up. Whereas to everyone else watching, they've got, yeah, okay, a lot of people might say that it's boring watching like all the technical start and watching them like grinding each other down and what people would call rest holds or whatever. People might complain that that's boring, but that's actually part of the story of the match. You've got to go from that build of like, these two both come out, they're both strong competitors, they haven't they're not tired, they haven't expended any energy yet, so they're just the going through the paces and building the pace of the match, so when it picks up, then it's more interesting then, because this match basically just didn't get started for me until the spot where Piper was going after Raina. In fact, the first notes I've got down is that Raina again gets sent to the outside, what with lazy calling, and then after that it's just basically the finish of the match for me. It was that spot where Piper was going after Raina. She does a few chops and a couple of back fists and a crossbody, and that finally takes Raina down after all of that. And then Raina kicks out of the near fall, but it's for nothing because the Michinoku driver eventually wins Piper the match. And that's it. It was a 3 out of 6 match because I actually thought the commentary and what was going on in terms of the in-ring stuff towards the end of the match, I actually thought was pretty good, but I couldn't give it over a 3 because the beginning of the match was so boring. So yeah, I don't know why they didn't just save Piper Neven for Glasgow. They should have just waited for a debut. It's not like they couldn't have used her on NXT UK. They could have still run video packages, they could have still done interviews and stuff like that, but I just feel like they should have just saved it for Glasgow, to be honest, because she didn't get a great reaction here. But like I said, the crowd was a little bit louder than it has been in previous weeks, so at least there's that. If and when she comes out at Glasgow, that should be a pretty good reaction. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, this was a 3 out of 6 match, really let down by the commentary. Amir Jordan and Kenny Williams pulling a promo next, talking about the grizzled young veterans. Kenny Williams was saying that they've had doubters, they've doubted themselves, and their biggest doubters were the NXT UK Tag Team Champions, the grizzled young veterans. They said that they had taken note of the fact that Gibson and Drake were calling themselves locker room leaders, but how could they be leaders of a locker room that they don't know anything about? He points out that they've travelled the same roads as Gibson and Drake, that they've been at it as long as them. They're not inexperienced themselves. I actually really liked Kenny Williams in this promo. It's the first time that I've actually been like, okay, yeah, that was a good promo. Amir Jordan too sounded a little bit more serious than he usually does, and I think that helped too. He said that last week the grizzled young veterans decided that those two didn't belong and threw their stuff out of the locker room, and he said that wasn't right because they decided that they didn't belong, but in their match a few weeks previous, it was the grizzled vets that walked out on the match, and that was making a good point. It was, continuing the thread left by that match. And then they both said that in Glasgow, that with the match that they're going to have against the grizzled young vets for the titles, that they'll take those titles. I really hope not. Even though I liked this promo, and I think that this team could turn me around if they show a bit more of an edge. They don't need to be like the party boys, the dancing guys or whatever. I just don't need that. With a bit more edge and seriousness to them, I actually think that I could get behind this team quite a bit. But I still don't want them to take the titles off Gibson and Drake because those two are awesome. But it was a really decent promo. I really liked it. A short but sweet promo from Gallace next as they take a look around Glasgow in anticipation of the upcoming show, saying that it's ugly, but they like it ugly because it's like them. They say they've travelled up and down the UK, they fought everywhere that it is, and it's time to fight on their turf in their kingdom because Glasgow is Gallace. I really liked it. There was good lines, it was well delivered. Gallace have got such a good handle on their characters. They come across as gritty and tough and also cheeky and just everything that they want to portray. I think they're really believable, and they're probably my favourite act on on NXT UK, I definitely would say that I prefer them to British Strong Style. Maybe it's just because I actually find Scottish voices pretty tough, but either way, I really, really enjoyed this promo. I can't wait to see them in Glasgow. It's going to be really, really fun seeing them get that hometown reaction. They're going to come out as heroes, man. Everywhere else they've been like booing them and giving them heat. They're going to come out as absolute heroes in Glasgow. I cannot wait. The Irish ace Jordan Devlin versus the United Kingdom champion Walter was the main event of this show. I really, really enjoyed this match. I have been getting more and more into Jordan Devlin as time's gone by. When I first started watching it shortly before TakeOver Blackpool, I really wasn't too into him. But I actually think since he's been doing this thing of playing this character of the guy that's sort of trying to spoil the rematch between Don and Walter, I think is a really good character. He's really good on the mic. He's delivers his lines well and he's really believable. So I actually am getting into Jordan Devlin as a heel now. I'm getting into him as a character. I actually was sort of rooting for him in this match, even though he was the heel, and I obviously knew he wasn't going to win, but I actually found myself rooting for him a little bit, just because he was working so hard. There was not, until later on in the match, there wasn't actually any real heel tactics. Early on in the match, he was just trying to avoid those chops from Walter. Walter wanted to take it to him, was going for those chops. Jordan kept dodging and chopping Walter, trying to basically just get him mad, I think, or at least that was what was happening. He was avoiding him. Then there was just there was a lot of stuff in this match, and I'm not going to be able to list all the cool spots, but there was a leapfrog from Walter that he followed with a big boot. I liked that. He was doing the chop spot again, and I really like that. Later on in the match, he tried to go for a German suplex on the outside, but Walter tried to go for a German suplex on the outside, but Devlin countered with a kick to get out of it, and Walter ended up getting a massive backdrop. They were back in the ring, and Devlin kicked the ropes into the hamstring of Walter, and that was it for sort of the rest of the match. Walter was selling the leg quite a bit. He did a seated senton to Devlin at one point that hurt his leg. Devlin was working the leg with kicks to the hamstrings and a single leg Boston Crab. Walter got a backdrop driver for an ear fall. That was a good spot, as well as at one point he was going for the powerbomb. Jordan Devlin rolled through, up and over, and rolled through for the near fall, and that was really good. But I like that Devlin was just being really smart in this match. At first he was just trying to avoid him, and then as soon as there was an opening, as soon as he'd kicked the ropes into that hamstring, he just kept working the leg and working the leg. But obviously, eventually, in the end, it just wasn't it wasn't going to work out for him because it's Walter, and eventually Walter ended up picking up the win, and I really, really enjoyed this match. I thought it was really good. I gave it a strong 5 out of 6. I think with with a little bit more time, like five more minutes or something like that, it could have been a strong 6 out of 6 match. Just if he'd have given it that little bit more time. I'm really struggling to think of more things to say about it. I just really, really enjoyed it. Afterwards, Pete Dunne came out and he demanded his rematch from Walter, and Walter just nodded his head. I did like that there was a good reception for Walter from the American audience. He got a fairly decent pop as he came out. The audience didn't sing his theme, but they did do a "Walter's gonna kill you" chant to start it off. This was just a really hard-hitting match that was really back and forth, and I really like that Walter is a really dominant champ, but he's sort of like a video game boss character. If if you can find your opening and you can start actually getting some in on him, you're going to get some in. You can actually do a little bit of damage. But once he gets it back on you, he's going to start beating the crap out of you, and it's going to be really, really hard to get it back. But yeah, this match, I would definitely recommend a watch. It was a strong 5. Strong. I was tempted to give it a 6 because I couldn't think of a way of improving it myself, but I still don't think that I was ever at that point where I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? My excitement was never really fully peaked. Like I say, I feel like I was getting into the match as it sort of came to its close, and with just 5 more minutes or so, I think it could have easily been a 6 out of 6 match. It could have easily been a takeover match. So I'm glad that they managed to make Walter look dominant and also not damage Jordan Devlin at all. He kept looking for the Devlin side. I think he eventually hit that for a near fall too. And like I say, really, really enjoyed it. Really recommend a watch. And that's all that's got to be said. 5 out of 6. So, in a show with only 3 matches and quite a few promos, this was actually still a fairly decent show. I felt like it was better than last week's one. The Travis Banks versus... I'm completely drawing a blank now. It was Travis Banks versus Mansour. That was a really decent match. It was a good way to kick off the show. I feel like it could have been better, but again, it was still actually fairly entertaining. The Piper Neven match, I really felt like that got let down by the commentary, and the main event obviously was really, really brilliant. And then for the promos, I think that I probably enjoyed Nina Samuel's one the most. I think that's got legs, and I'd like to see where she goes with it over time once she's got a little bit more confidence. I would give this show a 4 out of 6. It's not even a strong or a weak one, just a solid 4. It was good, but nothing spectacular. You could probably just watch the Devlin versus Walter match and be done with it. You wouldn't really miss too much. But let me know what you think down in the comments section, because like I said, I like having a conversation. I like hearing what other people have to say. I'd like to hear how you would improve NXT UK and what you think you would like to see from it in the future. If you've liked what you've heard here, just remember to hit that like button. It goes a long way, especially towards making me feel good. And if you want to keep up to date with all of my content, hit that subscribe button, hit the notify bell, join the family, and you will never be left out of the loop and never miss an episode of Wrestling in the Dark. Right, guys, I'm off, and you should have a good one.